Welcome to the American Nephrology Nurses Association's 50th Anniversary Podcast Series. In this commemorative series, past presidents and other leaders of the American Nephrology Nurses Association will provide a rich history of the association itself and of nephrology nursing as a specialty nursing profession. The American Nephrology Nurses Association's 50th Anniversary Podcast Series is brought to you by the Nephrology Nursing Journal, the official journal of the American Nephrology Nurses Association. We are honored to present this episode, and we hope you enjoy these invaluable and enlightening nephrology nursing recollections.
Hi, my name is Beth Ulrich. I'm the editor of the Nephrology Nursing Journal and a past president of AANNT. Today it is my honor to interview Don Holcombe, who served as president of AANNT in 1982 to 1983. Don, I want to thank you for talking with us today about nephrology nursing.
Thank you, Beth. It's my pleasure, and many people will remember me as Dawn Brennan, not as Don Holcombe, so there's been a last name change since then.
So let's start at the beginning of your nephrology nursing career. When and how did you become a nephrology nurse, and what was your first nephrology nursing job?
I took a job in a hospital-based unit that did inpatients and outpatients. But the reason I got that job was I had been working in critical care for my nursing career, and the hospital that I worked in was smaller, so I was looking for something that was more challenging, and I applied at Mercy Hospital in Miami, and the critical care unit didn't have an opening, but they steered me to the dialysis unit that did have one. So I didn't really know anything about dialysis or nephrology, and I thought, okay, let me go look at this and see if this is something that would interest me. And I was hooked, stayed there, worked in that field until 1987, I believe. It was a long time. I really enjoyed it. It's a very special thing. I was staff nurse, head nurse, then became supervisor, and then started working part-time and got more into the education director and quality assurance for the unit. It was a wonderful experience.
So tell us a little bit about nephrology nursing, and AANNT at the time of your presidency.
That takes a while to think about that, Beth.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
We were using RSP machines and code machines, and we were using parallel plates and coils and hollow fiber. And there were a lot of dialysis companies. There were a lot of machine companies at the time. It was just an emerging specialty, so there was a lot of interest, a lot of new technologies coming out all the time. So it was a very challenging but fun time to be involved. As far as AANNT, I had been working in our unit for a while, and we had a local chapter of AANNT and got involved in that, and that's how eventually I got involved in the southeastern region and then ultimately became a board member for the association. At the time, we were just learning about kinetic modeling, and we were talking about high flux dialysis, didn't know what that was, just learning about those things, and we were emerging into specialties of pediatrics and transplant. So when you asked me about AANNT and the challenges facing AANNT, we were dealing with the issue of AANNT becoming a stronger nursing organization and wanting to have a role in other specialty groups. Critical care nurses were big, nurse midwives were big, nurse practitioners were establishing themselves. And so we had to choose a course. Did we want to be a nursing organization, or did we want to represent nurses and technicians? And ultimately, we made the decision to become a nursing organization and subsequently became AANNA, as you well know. But that was a tough decision. It took a lot of thought and a lot of difficult discussions because technicians are certainly important to the care of the patients as well. But that was our goal, was to really represent nephrology nurses, and that means all aspects of nephrology nursing. One of the things in my year that we addressed was how do we represent everyone and keep the structure that we had. And we ultimately decided on a chapters Congress, but we went through several iterations of things that could possibly represent the grassroots folks at the national level, because all of us were basically grassroots nurses that had gotten to the top of this organization, but we still worked on a daily basis with all of our patients and all of our colleagues. So we were all really grassroots. Nobody was up there running in a professional position that wasn't employed. So we were all very sensitive to the local needs of people. The other issue that was facing the organization was our alignment with the medical organization of ASIA, which was the Society of Artificial Internal Organs. And that relationship of holding our meetings in conjunction with that group was actually holding the associations back because we didn't have as much control over venue and room spaces and speakers and many things. So we decided to split from the medical organization and host our first independent national meeting. There was a lot of controversy around that. There was some fear that we wouldn't survive economically. But in the end, the organization has flourished and done extremely well, and we still have good relations with our medical colleagues and other colleagues in the nephrology community. It was a good decision. We were certainly helped by our management firm in managing our finances and our structure and scope so that we didn't overreach, but it was an excellent time for us. As an aside, at that independent meeting, we wanted to host an international session, and we wanted to invite nephrology nurse representatives from other countries to come and participate in an international session as our guests. Well, this is the time of AANNT really began to get involved on a global scale and understand what the policies of other countries were, and they had an impact on our own organization. So we had some significant pushback about inviting representatives from South Africa because of apartheid, and representatives from one of the countries in South America, and forgive me, I don't remember which country this was, but it was a difficult regime. And so ultimately, to appease our own membership, we did not host that international meeting at that session. The nurses from those countries were certainly welcome to attend, but we did not sponsor them. The negative thing about that is that nurses from South America were then not allowed to attend because unless they had an invitation from the association, their country would not let them participate. Representatives from South Africa were still there, and they spoke from the audience, and it all turned out well. And, we got past it in the future, but that was a touchy time for us because it was our first meeting, and we wanted it to go well, and we wanted to minimize controversy at that point. Thankfully, now we're strong enough that we can handle controversy and different opinions.
Well, and as I recall, that was when we did the apolitical resolution, too, for future
Correct.
Things like that.
You are absolutely correct. I had forgotten that.
What were the biggest challenges for nephrology nursing? And we've talked some about the ones for AANNT, but the challenges while you were on the board and served as president.
Government regulations and end-stage renal disease networks and the continuing control the government had on reimbursement was a major issue and concern that we had to face with all of our decisions and how we took care of patients and how we advocated for nurses and how we advocated for patients. So that was, and I'm sure continues to be, an issue. Reimbursement and expenses of these care are tough things to face.
Tell us about your career after AANNT and maybe how your experiences at AANNT influenced the rest of your career.
The nephrology nursing community is wonderful, but it's all-consuming. When you work with our patients, you are really invested in those patients, and I was looking for something that was a little less intense. So I actually got into clinical research in diabetes, and diabetes is certainly a major factor in end-stage renal disease. So I started working at a university in clinical research and just loved it. There too, but my experience as a nephrology nurse certainly helped me understand the path and the course of diabetes and help these people before they got to end stage and help them prevent getting to end stage. So it was a natural progression for me to get into diabetes research. And then I finished my clinical career in that and joined the corporate world later in my career, but doing project management over a clinical research team in diabetes as well as GAD, but ended up my career doing bone research. So, it's all related, all chronic illnesses. Somehow I never got into the acute end of things. I must like that continuity of care thing and the relationship you establish with people.
Yeah, I think that relationship's real important. Before we end, what short message or thought regarding nephrology nursing, past, present, or future, would you like to share with our listeners?
It's wonderful. Don't give up. The people that stick with it are unique, because these are the people that relish these long-term relationships with people. You get enmeshed in people's lives and their livelihood and their families, so it's a cohesive team approach to caring for people. You're not just delivering a service. It's mutually rewarding, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful area for nurses.
Don, I want to thank you for your service and leadership as president of AANNT, and for being a personal role model for me when I was on your board, and for allowing us to interview you. We very much appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks, Beth. I appreciate it.
The American Nephrology Nurses Association's 50th anniversary podcast series is brought to you by the Nephrology Nursing Journal, the official journal of the American Nephrology Nurses Association. This series is owned and produced by the American Nephrology Nurses Association. All rights reserved. No portion of this podcast may be used without written permission. For archived episodes of this podcast and to learn more about the American Nephrology Nurses Association, visit the association's website at annanurse.org. You can also subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, our hosting site Spreaker, and other various podcast delivery services.